Good morning and Jai Hind, dear students. Welcome to physics class. Children, I hope you are clear with the concept of sources of water. So there are four sources of water we have talked about in the previous class. That is, first is rainwater. Second, we have talked about that is groundwater. Then we have surface water, and then we have seawater. So children, I think you are clear with these concept of sources of water, and we have also seen the water cycle. So you are clear with what is water cycle, what are the sources of water, and now we are heading towards the end of this chapter. So we will talk about the two natural calamities that occurs because of the water, that is drought and flood, and we will also see the conservation of water, that is how we can conserve the water. Okay, so today most probably we will end up with the explanation of this chapter, and then in the next class we'll do the exercise of these chapters. Okay, so let's quickly start with it. Children, we know that during summer season the rainfall does not occur, right? गर्मी में बारिश नहीं होती है, right? So after summer there comes the monsoon season, right? So in India, in monsoon season it usually rains. Okay, but there are some parts of this country where the rainfall does not occur, और if it occurs तो बहुत ही कम बारिश होती है उस एरिया में, और there are some places जहाँ पे बहुत ज़्यादा heavy rainfall होता है. So because of the shortage of rainfall and because of the heavy rainfall, there occurs certain natural calamities like droughts and flood. ड्रॉट का मतलब होता है सूखा पड़ जाना. जब पानी की कमी होती है तो जमीन एकदम सूखी पड़ जाती है. सो दैट इज कॉल्ड ड्रॉट. एंड फ्लड इज बाढ़ आ जाना. सो व्हेन देयर इज एक्सेस अमाउंट ऑफ वाटर, व्हेन देयर इज वेरी हेवी रेनफॉल, so that is also very dangerous. All right, that also causes destruction, and drought also causes destruction. Okay, so कहते हैं ना, हर चीज की अति भी बहुत बुरी होती है और किसी चीज का बहुत कम होना भी बहुत बुरा होता है. सो सेम इज द केस हियर, that if there is a shortage of rainfall, then it causes drought, but if there is excessive rainfall, then it causes flood. So what happens during drought and what happens during flood, that we are going to talk in this topic, that is droughts and floods. Okay, so children, in India, there are some places in West, that is Gujarat, Rajasthan, and some parts of Madhya Pradesh, where the rainfall does not reach on time. ठीक है, रेनफॉल स्टार्ट होता है ईस्ट से. इट स्टार्ट्स फ्रॉम द ईस्ट, फ्रॉम द साउथ ईस्ट वी कैन से. इट स्टार्ट्स फ्रॉम देयर एंड टिल इट रीचेस दीज प्लेसेस ऑन द वेस्ट. तब तक क्या होता है कि उसका मॉइस्चर चला जाता है और बहुत ही कम रेनफॉल होती है वहां पे. ओके, so because of which what happens, the ponds dried up. पॉन्ड सूखे पड़ जाते हैं, लेक सूखे पड़ जाते हैं. देयर इज सो मच स्कैरसिटी ऑफ वाटर कि लोगों के पास पीने के लिए भी पानी नहीं होता है. इवन द soil becomes so dry that even the plants cannot grow there. So all these things leads to a destruction. All right, all these things leads to a heavy destruction. कैसे destruction होता है children? First of all, before that, I'll show you the diagram is there in your book itself, so you can have a look what is drought. See, this is drought. This is the drought condition. जब जमीन एकदम सूखी पड़ जाती है, you can see here there are cracks on the floor. Here in the soil and land there are several cracks because of the scarcity or because of the shortage of water. ठीक है, now imagine if there is a shortage of water, क्या होगा अगर पानी की कमी है. first of all, the land will become dry. Okay, so the soil will not become fertile. Getting it? For any plant to grow, water is very 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 important. You know that, right? तो अगर soil में पानी ही नहीं होगा, so can these trees can grow properly? No. All right. Now consider if there are less amount of plants and less amount of trees there. So will there be enough pure water or enough pure air to survive? तो क्या है, वहां पे पेड़ कम है, वहां पे डेफिनेटली लोग तो होंगे ही होंगे. तो इज इट feasible to survive there? क्या लोग वहां पे survive कर सकते हैं? No, it is very difficult for them. Though there are certain succulent plants like cactus and everything, there it grows, which requires a less amount of water. But still, if there are no plants, the survival is not at all easy. Okay? Now, this was about the plant. What about crops? Crops are also very necessary, children, right? Why crops are very necessary? Because we require cereal, we require pulses, roti, sabji, dal, chawal. For that, cereals are very important, right? अगर land उतनी fertile नहीं है, अगर soil उतनी fertile नहीं है, so these crops will also not grow there. So if the crop will not grow sufficiently, तो क्या होगा? That the production of these will be very less, production of the crops will be very less, और वहां पे खाने की कमी हो जाएगी उस एरिया में. Are you getting my point? So there will be scarcity of food also because of the drought condition. Or what they can do, they can purchase it from the neighboring states. या वो यूपी से परचेज करे, या वो ऊपर की तरफ पंजाब से परचेज करें, या वो they can take it from Maharashtra. So they can purchase it from their neighboring states. That will be very costly affair. Alright, कहीं से परचेज करना, अपने लैंड पे प्रोड्यूस ना होना, again it will become costly, right? So many of the poor people and the middle class people will not be able to afford it. Getting my point? So again, it is a very destructive issue. Getting it? So again, this was about the crops. What about the fruits and vegetables? So due to the scarcity of water, again, these fruits and vegetables will also not grow properly, especially the fruits which require ample amount of water. They will not be able to grow there. Again, to live and to survive, they have to purchase it from the neighboring states. Again, it will be very expensive. And if it is very expensive, it is not like poor people will not be able to afford it. Getting it? So to survive in such place like Rajasthan and some parts of Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh, so this become very difficult for a poor people to survive there. Getting it? Especially during the drought condition when there is so much shortage of water. All right. And same goes with the animals living there. The animals living there will also not get sufficient amount of crops to eat, sufficient amount of food to eat. And if they will not get that much amount of food to eat, they will not produce such things. Like for example, if we talk about cow, so cow needs to have certain grains, right? Then only it can produce milk. Okay, so if cow is not getting the sufficient amount of nutrient, if cow is not getting that sufficient amount of the grains which she requires, so will she be able to produce the sufficient amount of milk? No. Will the people will get the proper meat? No. So again, there is a scarcity of food, there is a scarcity of everything there where there is a drought condition. Getting my point, children? So this drought is very 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 destructive uh, natural calamity which occurs in such places where there is very less rainfall. Okay, so the same thing is written here, what I am telling you. Now, children, if the condition becomes so adverse that people start to die because of the shortage of food and water, so such condition is called famine. Okay, so I'll start from the beginning, very beginning, and I'll explain you one by one what is drought. So I think you got an idea what is drought. Drought is the condition when there is shortage of water because of very less rainfall. Okay, so in our country there is very little rainfall during the summer months. गर्मी में बारिश बहुत कम होती, इवन होती ही नहीं है. This leads to the shortage of water. Okay, summer is followed by monsoon that brings the rain. Summer के बाद क्या आता है? Monsoon आता है, and monsoon brings the rain. However, sometimes rain may fail during the monsoon in some areas of the country. बारिश होती है, बट स्टिल कुछ एरिया अपनी कंट्री में ऐसे हैं जहां पे बारिश प्रॉपरली पहुंच नहीं पाती. ओके, so which leads to a severe shortage of water in those parts. Rivers and ponds dry up, सब सूखा पड़ जाता है. The soil becomes dry, soil सूखे पड़ जाते हैं since it continues to lose water by evaporation. See, sun is there, evaporation process will continuously take place. तो जितना पानी बचा है वो धीरे 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 सन के हीट से क्या होता है? इवेपोरेट हो जाता है. तो जो बचा भी है that also gets evaporated. Getting it? Same goes with the plant also. प्लांट जो ट्रांसपिरेशन की प्रोसेस करते हैं उसमें जो वाटर रिलीज होता है दैट ऑल्सो goes off by evaporation. Crops cannot grow properly. Such condition is called drought. In our country, some parts of the state as Rajasthan, Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh are especially prone to drought. This is because the monsoon winds lose most of their moisture by the time they reach these places. जब बारिश होती है तो वहां पे बारिश होती है बट इतनी कम होती है कि it is not sufficient for these crops to grow. Therefore, there is a little rainfall even when the monsoon is normal. इसीलिए बहुत कम रेनफॉल होती है जब मॉनसून भी होता है तो. Alright. So shortage of water during drought affects all of us. Children, it not only affects those states like Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat, but it also affects the entire country. Why it does affects the entire country? Because कुछ ऐसी चीजें हैं जो सिर्फ वहां के सॉइल में प्रोड्यूस हो सकती हैं. अगर वहां के सॉइल में वो चीजें प्रोड्यूस नहीं होंगी, so we will also not be able to get those things for fooding. Right, getting my point? So basically the farmers are very much affected by these worst condition. And also what happens, अगर कंसिडर कि एक कोई जमीन है जहाँ पे एकदम सूखा पड़ा हुआ है, ठीक है, तो क्या होगा, वहाँ की जो मिट्टी होती है वो भी बहुत लूज हो जाती है. राजस्थान में इफ यू हैव एवर गॉन देयर, और आप अगर कभी विजिट किए हो राजस्थान, या आपने कभी मूवीज या पिक्चर्स में भी देखा होगा, सो वहाँ पे रेत ज्यादा होती है. राइट, वहाँ देयर इज मोर अमाउंट ऑफ सॉइल एंड लूज सॉइल्स एंड सैंड देयर. Getting it? Why? Because of again this scarcity of water. Okay, so what happens कि अगर सूखा होगा तो वहां पे मिट्टी भी बहुत सूखी होगी. And again because of the heavy rain, because of the heavy flow of the wind, क्या होगा, that top fertile, जो भी fertile मिट्टी है, that fertile soil, that will blow off. जो अच्छी मिट्टी है, जो उपजाऊ मिट्टी है जिसमें प्लांट ग्रो कर सकते हैं, that soil will run off. Okay, if that soil is getting run off, again the area becomes barren. Getting it? So this is known as soil erosion. What it is called? It is called soil erosion. What is soil erosion? Removal of the fertile topmost soil by the wind is called soil erosion. Okay, It further increases the problem for farmers. Definitely, सॉइल ही फर्टाइल नहीं होगी तो कोई भी चीज ग्रो ही नहीं करेगी वहां पे. Okay, shortage of grains, fruits, vegetables that follows affects us all. Livestock and other animals perish due to shortage of food and water. This results in the shortage of milk and meat. That the same thing that I have told you कि अगर animals को भी proper nutrition नहीं मिलेगा, they will not be able to produce the proper amount of milk and meat, right? So if monsoon fails for several years in a row, it can lead to a severe drought. People may even die due to the shortage of food and water. पानी और खाने के कमी से people may even die, and such worse condition is known as famine. Okay, which may also lead to several diseases. So this is drought. I think you are clear with it कि अगर पानी की shortage होती है, so because of the shortage of water, several things occurs like crops cannot grow properly, fruits cannot grow properly, vegetables cannot grow properly, and hence there is a shortage of everything, not only for these states but also for other states also. So this is drought. Just opposite of drought is flood. So what is flood? When there is very heavy rainfall. So this I think we all have experienced, right? Flood we all have experienced. So flood we have experienced last year itself. जब स्कूल बंद हो गया था, स्कूल में पानी आ गया था, गंगा जी बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ गई थी तो स्कूल में पानी आ गया था, राइट? सो this flood we have observed it, right? So what is flood? Flood is basically when there is heavy rainfall during the monsoon season and the level of river rise up above the its tabular level. When जहां पे उसका लेवल बैंक खत्म होता है उसके ऊपर जब उसका लेवल बढ़ जाता है, then it is called flood. And that water comes to the places of living. घरों में पानी आ जाता है, and crops में पानी चला जाता है, field में पानी चला जाता है, and the force is so heavy that it can cause a massive destruction. Okay, so what happens in flood? There is a very heavy flow of water. Water can even reach the house, it can even reach the road, it can block the road, it can reach the it can also uh, वो जितने भी क्रॉप एरिया है उसको खराब कर सकते हैं. वाटर लॉगिंग हो सकती है. वाटर लॉगिंग क्या होता है बेटा? जब कहीं पे पानी इकट्ठा हो जाए, राइट? व्हेन देयर इज अ कलेक्शन ऑफ वाटर एट सम प्लेस. नाउ व्हाट हैपेंस because of the excessive flood? At times the communication becomes difficult. लाइट चली जाती है तो इलेक्ट्रिकल लाइंस खराब हो जाती हैं, पानी की सप्लाई बंद हो जाती है. So it is very disastrous condition, that is flood. Okay, even there becomes so much scarcity of food, खाने को नहीं होता है, and like people don't have a place to live. So this becomes very difficult for a person to live during the flood condition. Okay, and this flood condition क्योंकि पानी जगह जगह पे इकट्ठा हो रहा है may also lead to several diseases like cholera, डेंगू, मलेरिया. क्यों? क्योंकि पानी एक जगह पे अगर बहुत टाइम तक रहता है, so various mosquitoes, उसमें mosquitoes हो जाएंगे, उसमें बहुत सारे बैक्टीरियाज हो जाएंगे which may cause such diseases like cholera, dengue, malaria. So ये सारी diseases भी हो सकती हैं because of the flood condition. Getting it? So in more, I'm just reading this line, I have already explained it to you. So in most parts of our country it rains heavily during the monsoon months. Often there is so much water in the river that many of them rise above their bank and flow into the nearby land. Such a condition is known as flood. बाढ़ आ जाती है, हम फ्लड को हम हिंदी में बोलते हैं बाढ़ आ जाना. ठीक है? So the flow of water can be very strong, damaging the crop, roads, houses. सब कुछ को वो खराब कर देते हैं. Crops that get covered with water cannot grow properly. Again, if the crop will not grow properly, we are not going to get a proper amount of food to eat. Okay, this leads to food shortage. Electric lines, water supply, and communication network also gets affected. So all these things also gets affected. There is a shortage of food, drinking water, and shelter. Waterlogging, the same thing, collection of water at one place is called waterlogging, which may last for several days. बहुत दिन तक ये waterlogging हो सकती है, which may cause diseases like cholera, malaria, dengue. So people and animal may die due to drowning, hunger, and thirst and diseases. Okay. So again, this is a very natural calamity which causes several destruction. In coastal areas क्या होते हैं? So these are the coastal areas जहाँ पे ऐसे हट हट टाइप के होते हैं और सिर्फ पानी पानी जैसा होता है. So these are the coastal areas. Okay, see, these are the coastal areas here. So in coastal areas cyclone is very strong. तो वहां पे flooding कैसे आती है? cyclone के साथ आती है. cyclone क्या होता है? cyclone is a very strong flow of wind. ठीक है, बहुत तेज हवा चलती है और फिर उसके साथ बारिश होती है. ठीक है, that is called cyclone. So you can see here in the figure. So a cyclone is a very strong wind accompanied with a very heavy rain. So the strong wind causes high waves called tidal waves. तो पानी क्या होता है? एकदम बहुत फोर्स से आता है. ठीक है, पानी बहुत फोर्स से आएगा और वो पूरे घर को, जो उस एरिया के आसपास के जितने भी घर है उन सब को तोड़ देगा, एंड इट causes several destruction and whatnot. So they cause flooding in the coastal areas. In our country, states like Andhra Pradesh, Assam, Bihar, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Odisha, Tamil Nadu, and West Bengal are especially prone to floods and cyclone. Okay, so this was about the flood and drought. Okay, so drought is सूखा पड़ जाना and flood is when it is excessive rainfall. Okay, so these are the two conditions. Now children, we have talked about water, we have talked about its pollution, we have talked about water cycle, and we have also seen the sources of water. And now, till now, we know that कि water is very essential, right? अब हमें ये पता है कि पानी बहुत important है for survival. Okay, so it is also very important and it is our responsibility to conserve the water. Okay, now how we can conserve the water, how we can make the water useful. So this is the topic, that is conservation of water. कंजर्व करने का क्या मतलब होता है? कंजर्व करने का मतलब ये नहीं होता है कि हम पानी को यूज ही ना करें. कंजर्व करने का मतलब ये होता है कि पानी को हम वाइजली यूज करें, जितनी जरूरत है उतना यूज करें. वी शुड नॉट वेस्ट द वाटर. ओके, सो लेट्स सी. Conservation of water means its wise and careful use. It means not wasting the water and also maintaining its quality. क्वालिटी को भी मेंटेन करना है, पानी वेस्ट भी नहीं करना है, और हमें ऐसा नहीं है कि अगर हमें पानी की जरूरत है तो हम पानी यूज ही ना करें. पानी यूज करें लेकिन जितनी रिक्वायरमेंट है उतना यूज करें. डोंट वेस्ट वाटर. ऐसा नहीं है कि आप नल खोल दिए और बहुत ठंडा है मम्मी पानी, बहुत ठंडा है मम्मी पानी करके पानी ड्रेन आउट होता चला जा रहा है. ओके, so we should not waste water. We should take that much water जितना required है, जितना sufficient. Okay, some ways in which water can be conserved are as follows. Let's see. Avoid the wastage of water. First of all, नल खोल के छोड़ दिया, पानी वेस्ट हो रहा है. पाइप लिया है आप लोग ने, प्लांट वाटरिंग कर रहे हैं प्लांट में, तो मोबाइल चला रहे हैं एक हाथ से और एक हाथ से like you are planting the water. Okay, plant को आप watering कर रहे हो, तो this is not good. Okay, so we should not waste water first of all. Second, water can be recycled. For example, when we are using the water in kitchen, तो किचन में क्या होता है, जब भी हम सब्जी वब्जी धोते हैं तो पानी जो भी गंदा होता है we drain it out. So rather than draining it out, we can give the same water to plants. ठीक है, आप प्लांट को वो पानी दे दो. Okay, so you make a effective use of it. Rather than draining it out, we can conserve those water and we can plant the trees. Okay, now plant trees and other vegetation. This increase the absorption of water by the soil and increase the water table. Children, now listen to this point very carefully. ऐसे एरिया जहां पे प्लांटेशन होता है, जहां पे छोटे छोटे पौधे होते हैं, जहां पे ट्री होते हैं, there the soil is also present, right? तो soil अगर present है, so soil has a capacity to absorb the water. Okay, so if we will plant more and more trees, so the soil will also get fertile and it will also have a capacity to absorb the water. So when it will absorb the water will go beneath it and will increase the or will rise the level of water table. Getting my point? तो सॉइल क्या करेगा, फर्टाइल होगा. सॉइल में अगर हम पानी डाल रहे हैं तो पानी सीप आउट होके ग्राउंड लेवल या ग्राउंड या वाटर टेबल को इंक्रीज करेगा. ओके, सो वी शुड प्लांट trees to conserve water. Reduce water pollution by treating sewage and factory waste before disposing it off. So generally what happens, if there are certain industries and like फैक्ट्रीज हैं, तो फैक्ट्रीज और इंडस्ट्री क्या करते हैं, उनके उनकी इंडस्ट्रीज में से जितने भी गंदगी निकलती है, जितने भी गंदा पानी निकलता है, उसको वो रिवर में डंप कर देते हैं, विच इज नॉट गुड. सो बिफोर throwing it into river or before throwing it, we should first treat these water. Okay, rather than throwing it away, we can conserve or we can make that water fresh again. हम सीवेज के पानी को, जो गंदा नाली का पानी है ना, उसको भी हम साफ कर सकते हैं and we can use it. Getting it? This is done by sewage treatment plant and this you will study in your higher classes. How the sewage plant is being treated. Okay, rather than throwing it away, rather than wasting these water, we should treat these water. Okay, this is called sewage treatment plant. Control flooding and store water for use when rain fall by building dams. Dams बना लीजिए, तो dams बनाने से क्या होगा कि water conserve हो जाएगा and we should harvest the water. ठीक है? They destroy the wildlife and displace people from their homes. Also, accumulation of silt in the storage reservoir reduces their effectiveness with time. So, children, we know that flood destroys everything. तो हमें पानी को क्या करना चाहिए, कंजर्व करना चाहिए. डैम बना लीजिए. ठीक है, सो वी शुड कंजर्व दीज वाटर rather than wasting it. By rain harvesting, रेन वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग. रेन वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग क्या होता है बेटा, कि जो बारिश का पानी आ रहा है, ठीक है, we can, what we can do is we can store these water. हम उस पानी को स्टोर कर सकते हैं और हम उसको भी कुछ हाउस होल्ड वर्क में भी यूज कर सकते हैं और वी कैन ऑल्सो यूज इट फॉर refilling the groundwater. Okay, so as you can see in the figure here, so see these are the rain waters. तो रूफ टॉप पे क्या किया है, छत पे इस रेन वाटर को स्टोर कर लिया. ठीक है, अब यहां से हमने पाइप लगाई. अब पाइप लगा के क्या किया कि हमने जो ये ग्राउंड वाटर है, जो नीचे जो पानी है इसके, वहां पे इस पानी को ट्रांसफर कर दिया बाय डिगिंग अ पाइप. तो क्या हुआ, ये जो ग्राउंड वाटर है वो रिफिल हो गया एंड अगेन वी कैन यूज दिस वाटर फॉर आवर ओन पर्पस. और व्हाट वी कैन डू कि हम इस पानी को स्टोरेज टैंक में यूज कर सकते हैं और अगर हम इसको स्टोरेज टैंक में यूज करते हैं तो ये बहुत सारे काम आ सकता है हमारे. ओके, सो रादर देन वेस्टिंग दीज रेन वाटर हो रहा है तो हम वेस्ट होने दें, सब कुछ होने दें, वी कैन हार्वेस्ट इट बाय दिस मेथड विच इज कॉल्ड रेन वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग. ओके, so by rainwater harvesting, which consists of storing rainwater for later use, the amount of water seeping into the ground has reduced because of cutting down of trees. Basically, in big cities, जो कि बड़ी cities हैं जहाँ पे पेड़ कम दिखते हैं, बिल्डिंग्स ज्यादा दिखती हैं, जहाँ पे सॉइल और लैंड कम दिखता है, रोड ज्यादा दिखती है, इन सच प्लेसेस दिस रेन वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग शुड बी डन. कैसे? अब जितनी भी बड़ी सिटीज हैं वहां पे क्या हुआ है कि देयर the trees has been cut, the vegetation has been spoiled, and instead of that industries and buildings has been constructed, because of which what happens कि soil तो रह नहीं गया, सॉयल नहीं रह गया तो सॉयल जो है वो रेन वाटर को एब्जॉर्ब नहीं करेगा, रेन वाटर को वो एब्जॉर्ब नहीं करेगा तो जो ग्राउंड वाटर है, जो वाटर टेबल है, वो रिफिल नहीं होगा. गेटिंग इट? इफ दैट विल नॉट गेट रीफिल्ड तो हमें पीने के लिए पानी कहाँ से मिलेगा? तो ये प्रॉब्लम कहाँ की प्रॉब्लम है? बिग सिटीज की प्रॉब्लम है, बिग एरियाज की प्रॉब्लम है. गांव में व्हेन यू गो टू विलेजेस, व्हेन यू गो टू सच एरियाज, वहां पे तो वेजिटेशन है, वहां पे सॉइल भी है, फर्टाइल सॉइल भी है, वहां पे रेन वाटर को सॉइल एब्जॉर्ब भी कर रही है और वाटर टेबल मेंटेन भी हो रहा है. बट दिस इज द प्रॉब्लम विद बिग सिटीज, क्योंकि वहां पे वेजिटेशन है ही नहीं. गेटिंग इट? देयर इज सो मच रोड कंस्ट्रक्टेड कि सॉइल नहीं है, and there are no trees, there are only buildings. Okay, so trees, and by constructing roads and buildings, these have reduced the area over which water can seep into the soil. तो पानी जा ही नहीं सकता soil में. The rain water that falls on such a structure flows off into drain with which empty them into the river or lakes. Rainwater harvesting can be done in following two ways. First is rooftop rainwater harvesting, जो कि ये मेथड है कि छत पे पानी को स्टोर करिए, यहाँ से पाइप लगाइए एंड डिग अ पाइप इनसाइड इट एंड refill the groundwater. Or second is you can store it in the storage tank. Okay, and the second method is जो रोड साइड पे ड्रेन वाटर हो रहा है, यू कैन डिग अ पिट, एक गड्ढा कर दो और जो भी रेन वाटर है वो नीचे की तरफ डिप पिट में चला जाए और वो ग्राउंड वाटर को रिफिल कर दे. Okay, so these are the two methods by which the rainwater can be harvested. Getting it? By these way we can conserve the water. Okay, so that was about this chapter, children. We have completed the explanation of this chapter. Okay, in the next class we'll do the exercise of this chapter, though I have already sent you the exercise of this chapter. So children, you can do this oral question, so I'll just quickly discuss it. Question number 1: air becomes warmer as you go higher up. True or false? It is false, because when we go up higher, then the air becomes cooler और तभी तो condensation होता है. Okay. Now, what are clouds made up of? Clouds किसके बने होते हैं? Clouds are made up of water droplets, right? Or you can say water vapor. Okay. How does water vapor in the air change into cloud? By condensation. So what you will write? You will write by condensation. Okay. Question number 3. Rainwater is normally the purest form of natural water, but it has some impurities. What are these impurities and how do they come into rainwater? So, when rainfall occurs, so there are several gases in the atmosphere. So, rainwater get mixed with these gases first. Second, dust particles are there. It get mixed with the dust particles. and also certain solid impurities. So they get mixed with these impurities. Okay, getting it? Because it is present in the atmosphere. Then next is Rajasthan suffers from drought quite often, whereas Kerala does not. Why? So, what is the reason behind it is because Kerala is present in the southeast direction, जहाँ से rainfall start होती है. So, there is a heavy rainfall, and till the time it reaches the Rajasthan, I hope everybody knows the map of India. So, till the time it reaches the Rajasthan, the moisture of rainwater becomes very less, and hence Rajasthan gets a suffers with drought. Okay, now question number 5: where do you expect seepage of water into the ground to be less, in a village or in a big city? Give reason. Definitely in the big cities. Why? Because land or the soil is converted into road, and the vegetation and crops and trees is now deforested, and their buildings are constructed, so we cannot find the soil there. So there is no seepage when there is no soil. Okay, so this was the oral question, children. For today, your homework is to write the new words and the concept map of this chapter. In your fair notebook, you will write the date, and then we will discuss the exercise of this chapter. Okay, children, I have already sent you this oral question. You can do it from that PDF. Okay, so that's all about today's class, children. We have completed the exercise, we have completed the explanation of this chapter, and in the next class, we'll do the exercise. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you and Jai Hind everyone.